Hello and welcome to The Last Tackle. We had record crowds for Rivals Weekend, and in the studio to discuss all things Rugby League, I'm delighted to welcome Adrian Morley and Kevin Brown. Chaps, thanks for coming in. Kevin, you were at Wigan on Friday. What was it, 25,000 there?
Yeah, just short a capacity crowd, and the appetite for the game was clear to see. I think the fact that both teams and both groups of fans expected to win on the day really helped, and the atmosphere was just like I'd not seen before.
We'll talk about the game in detail in a moment. Moz, 83,357 came through the turnstiles this weekend in the Betfred Super League.
Yeah, that's a fantastic figure, and I think the weather was kind to us. That certainly helped, but the people who did come and watch certainly got treated to some fantastic games. A couple of them games were my favourite of the Super League season so far. Yeah, I loved every game.
Let's talk about the game on Thursday night. Castleford, that's only their second win of the season against Wakefield, 16-4. Wakefield, desperate for a win. We've got a home game this week. They are desperate for a win, Wakefield.
And they need to start attacking better. I think that's the big issue. They're losing games and they're only conceding a few tries. They lost to Huddersfield 8-0 and then they've lost by 16-4 this week. I think their attack, when Mason Leno's not on the ball, they just look void for ideas. So, yeah, it's getting to that stage now where they need a win. The good thing for them is there is Hull FC now just above them, and they'll be chasing them down. It seems strange to say, but if they can just start winning a few games, Hull will be really starting to worry.
Let's talk Hull FC. That was a battering by Hull KR, which will hurt. Only 2 wins for Hull this season.
Yeah, it's very strange. They've got a great playing roster there, and I'm a big fan of Tony Smith. I think it will turn around for him because Tony will work his magic at some point, but it needs to be sooner rather than later. And they won the first 2 games, and then they've not won a game since. So just to be 4 points above the relegation drop, it's certainly unacceptable for the Hull fans. And to get nilled off the fiercest, archest rivals in Super League, 40 points to nil. They just won't accept that, so they need to get back to the drawing board. They need to improve, and they need to do it quick.
Because it wasn't just a defeat, it was a landslide, wasn't it?
And that's the worry. I think the resilience is probably the thing that they need to work on. They played at home a couple of weeks previous to Salford and got beat by 60. And then, like Moz said, they get beat by the big arch rivals by 40 points to nil at home. It's not just turning the tide and making sure you start performing. They've got to start competing first, and when they go behind, they've got to make sure that they don't capitulate and let it be a landslide.
Let's get some plaudits to Hull KR though. Jordan Abdul and Mikey Lewis, both superb. And one of your old mates, Ryan Hall, with a hat-trick.
Yeah, it's great. He's rolling back the years, and it's good to see Harley still running about. And he's as big as me, Harley, but he's a lot quicker than I was. But they've been the surprise packages this year, in my opinion. Hull KR, they've had some great wins. Hull FC, and they beat Wigan as well at the start of the campaign, and they just look like they're enjoying the Rugby League. And when you get a team full of confidence and they look as though they're enjoying it, that you do tend to get the bounce of the ball and get the results. So great to see, and let's hope they continue that.
Really enjoy watching Jordan Abdul and Mikey Lewis.
Oh, they're brilliant. They're probably just as good as anyone in the competition at the minute as a partnership. And then you add in Lachlan Coote and Kenny Dowell on that left edge who are servicing the big Ryan Hall. It's not just his tries. The way when he's setting them back up, the ball he got back inside for Coote was they just looked unstoppable. Every time they went down that edge, they just looked dangerous. So they go to Saints this week, and I expect they'll be going there full of confidence.
Well, let's talk about Saints. 14-6 to Wigan. I thought it was a brilliant defensive performance by Wigan.
It was proper old school by Wigan, and I thought before the game that they were really going to struggle with Shorrocks at 6 to have any creativity, but Shorrocks was one of the best players on the field. The last-ditch tackles he came up with, the tackle in the first half where he threw Johnny Lomax into touch, but then the tackle at the end where he knocked the ball out of Morgan Knowles' his hands, it shows how good of a player he is. So Wigan are doing it tough, but what Wigan are doing is they're just resilient. They just make you fight for everything, and they'll be confident now that they can mix it up with the big boys come the end of the year.
They look a bit like the old Wigan, don't they, under Matty Peat now in the second season?
They do. Very, very tough, and they win the games on the defence. And I thought that was one of my favourite games of the full year. I thought it was fantastic. Bumper crowd. The sun was out, and it was two-faced rivals, and it was everything I wanted a derby to be. And yeah, they had to do it tough. You know, there was a few bits of adversity there, but I thought they were worthy winners in the end, Wigan. But it had pretty much everything in the game. It was a pleasure to watch.
1-4 and a bounce now, Wigan.
Yeah, and I still think there's a lot more in them. You know, when they went to Huddersfield, they were a bit rusty in the attack, but they're just so hard to beat. They just don't know when they beat, and whoever plays. I think Bevan French at fullback. Jay Field's probably the best fullback I've seen for a long, long time, but Bevan's gone back there and he looks even better. He looks even better than Jay. So when them two can both be on the field consistently, gosh, it's going to be a tough team to beat and a tough team to bet against.
And a huge blow. Mike Cooper's obviously going to miss the rest of the season.
Yeah, he's been terrific. He was an ever-present, someone we've both played with, and we know how tough. And the platform, he's turned into a proper Wigan player where he grasps for everything. He fights for every inch. But yeah, the tackle. I knew he was in pain because Coops doesn't stay down. And when he were walking off, I could see his face. He got carried off. So a massive blow for Coops, a massive blow for Wigan.
Yeah, Mike, if you're watching. Let's hope you're back very, very soon, but it's not going to be this season, unfortunately, with a serious injury, the ACL. Wigan, so a second place now. Matt Peake must be delighted.
Yeah, I think he is. You know, the way they've been going about the business, they've had a bit of a rocky start for Wigan standards, but they just, as Wigan do, very, very consistent, just going about the business and racking up the wins. So it adds to... there's a massive game at the weekend. We'll speak about that later. But you know, the second place now, Warrington in top spot, and then they go head to head this weekend. But I think Matty Peake will be very, very pleased. He has got a few injury problems, but you know, the guys, you know, apart from Mike Cooper, I don't think the other guys are long term, so they'll get a few of the troops back, and you know, that'll just add to the confidence really. And
then on Saturday, Lee Salford, another close one. That's a double for Salford over Lee now this season.
Yeah, it was another great game. You know, another fierce rival, and I thought Salford were worthy winners. But Lee, they've competed in every game that they've played this year, and the weekend's game was no different. But I just thought Salford had a bit more sparkle in attack, and they took the tries well. And as I say, I thought they were worthy winners.
And it turned into some great entertainers, Salford, aren't they?
Yeah, and you know, that sparkling attack sort of came when Chris Atkin came on the field. I thought they were under pressure, weren't they, at the beginning, where Lee was dominating the game, and Paul Rowley, I think because of the conditions, the way that the ground suits playing fast open rugby, he put Chris Atkin on as a ball playing middle, and he just terrorised that big pack for Lee. And yeah, they look sensational. Every time I watch Salford, they come up with some of the best tries and the best trick plays, but they've got a toughness about them as well, and I think, you know, with a leader, Callum Watkins now, he's a great captain, and yeah, they'll be a team that no one expects to do, you know, big things at the end of the year, but no one wants to play them either.
No, the only problem with Salford is probably the size of the squad. If they do get a few
It's been like that for a number of years, hasn't it?
No, you're right. If they do get some injuries to some key positions, they could really struggle. There's a couple of boys out at the minute, but they're not long term, thankfully. But if they can keep everyone fit, you know, there's no reason why they can't do what they did last year. And well, there was one game away from the grand final last year, but I just think as an attacking team, I think they're one of them, if not the best team in the league.
The attack, they go left, right, left, and I remember Nathan Brown used to say that's not the way to go. You need to drop a position, but Paul Rowley's showing it is the way to go. If you keep challenging,
as well.
It's brilliant.
That first half against Warrington a few weeks ago. At Warrington, they made Warrington look stupid, and you know, whenever everything sticks, they're just so hard to defend against, and look fantastic. They just need to keep it going.
Well, let's talk Warrington. Two former Warrington players, former Warrington captain. It was hard for you to defend Warrington last season, wasn't it? Let's be honest.
It was.
I'll let you talk about.
Wasn't their year last year, but it could be this year.
Well, you've said it already. Right, 8 out of 8.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at last weekend, I mean, that was a tough game against the Catalans. I know the Catalans had a few players missing. 14 all, down to 12 men, yet Warrington won.
Yeah, well, that's the difference between this year and last year. Last year, they wouldn't have had a chance of winning that game away from home against the Catalans, but they did find a way to win, and I just think, you know, winning breeds confidence, and they're just the way they're going at the minute. They've got a massive pack, very, very tough to play against, and very, very confident, and they're just wiping the floor with certain teams. But I thought it was a very, very gutsy and tricky win to get at the weekend. I thought they did great. That was my other favourite game of the year so far. I thought, again, that had everything.
8 out of 8.
Yeah, you know.
Well, and let's be honest, when we spoke to Darryl Powell at the start of the season, there was question marks, wasn't there?
There was.
And there was pressure.
There was.
But now we've done 8 out of 8.
Yeah, well, you know, the first 4 or 5 games of the season would have been interesting if Warrington hadn't got the wins. You know, who knows what could have happened. But at the minute, they're sitting pretty. Darryl Powell certainly relieved man. But as is the full Warrington squad and the you know the full club really. You know, no one likes to see him languishing at the bottom of the table as they was last year. And they're up there where the Warrington club feel they belong. And yeah, they're just playing exceptionally well, and they want to keep that run going.
Kev, is this what, you know, to owners and chairman, etc., about sticking with a coach? Because he was under pressure last year, and let's be honest, a few Warrington fans were not happy at all.
Yeah, and I think in hindsight, probably the best thing that ever happened to Warrington, that it was so bad. I think if they'd have done mediocre, they wouldn't have changed a lot. But the transformation they've got now from absolutely terrible last year to almost unplayable at times this year, and the transformation of form, I think George Williams is playing as good as I've ever seen him, regardless of Canberra or Wigan. I think he just looks that full dominant, complete halfback behind a great pack. But then you've got Matt Duffy at the back who's got that X factor, and without all them combinations, they lose that game at the weekend. But it's another tick in the box because it was a different style of win. Like you both said, it was resilient, it was gutsy, it was down to 12 men. That's probably the only negative, that they lose Gil Dudson for 5 weeks.
Finally, Leeds, Huddersfield. Leeds, very inconsistent, and need some consistency, but they were 13-4 down at half-time.
Yeah,
and come back and won 18-17.
They were, and they started the game terribly, didn't they, Leeds? They were 10-0 down after about 6 or 7 minutes, but they shown great grit, and you know, they did well to get back in the game, and I thought they were worthy winners. Huddersfield, you know, even though they've, I think they've won 4, lost 4, but the games they've lost have only been by 2 points and 1 point at the weekend, so they are competing very well, but they're just not finding a way to win at the minute, Huddersfield. But Leeds, inconsistent, but that, you know, that would have been really relieved a bit of pressure from the club and the coach, and yeah, I think he'll be quite happy with the victory.
Right, we'll talk about this weekend's fixtures in a moment, but it's been a big weekend for Rugby League, and it's going to be a big weekend on the Sportsman. Watch this.
This is it. After the biggest and most inclusive Rugby League World Cup ever, it all comes down to this. Brace yourself.
Here come England. Great ball round the back. Getting it out wide. And it's another fantastic England try. Can they execute? Halliwell ducks underneath. Bodies on the ground in the grand final. Couldn't play the ball. Flicks the ball away and Hawkins will do the rest. That was sensational. The emotion comes pouring out. It had absolutely everything. What a game of rugby league.
So the Betfred Wheelchair Super League is back, and we've got 3 games for you on the Sportsman on Saturday. London Roosters versus Leeds, Warrington versus Hull, and Halifax, that won the grand final last year, versus Wigan. Well, let's hear from a Halifax player. He was also a star of the England World Cup winning squad. It's Rob Hawkins.
Rob, we'll start with acknowledging the fact that you are now a dual champion, a Super League and World Champion. What a remarkable year 2022 was.
Yeah, it just shows how much that we've been working both internationally and in Super League as well. Like all the teams have, just to get to this point now and to get the recognition from online and on TV as well from all the fans who came to watch. It makes it even better and just makes me more excited for next season.
with the coverage that the wheelchair got, and we saw the Wheelchair World Cup got, and we saw those incredible crowds in the arenas as well, you must be hoping that domestically the game will just go from strength to strength now.
Yeah, I think like everyone's now basically seen it now, and it just shows that it just is rugby league in a wheelchair, and I think that's what's going to get rugby league fans around the world and also in this country just coming to watch the sport more and wanting to start up and sign up for a team.
And it became everyone's favourite sport, it felt, during that World Cup. What was it like being in the middle of all that and seeing everything on social media, people discovering it for the first time?
I think it was just the recognition. It kind of made me look back of when I first discovered it, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's just rugby league itself, and just seeing like young people and like even like adults as well seeing it, it just makes it look even better, and it just shows that people can play with their family members if they have a disabled or even just a non-disabled person in the family and they want to give it a shot. Then it just shows that there's another door to open for another sport. And domestically, you're expecting the standard this year to be higher than it ever has been? It's going to be high for Halifax, but it's going to be even higher for any other team in the Super League, because they're going to want to basically beat the champions and reclaim from a Leeds point of view, or claim it for just a win themselves and get that underneath their belt.
So 3 live games on the Sportsman, and it's the first time the wheelchair game will be back on your TV since that England World Cup victory. And it was one of the best things at the World Cup for me, was a wheelchair game. I loved it.
I love the copper box.
Entertaining,
the atmosphere in there and the athletes playing it and the skill. I didn't know whether it would look like rugby because, you know, it's on a smaller pitch, it's indoor, but it was brilliant, and all the Rugby League rules from the 13-a-side game looked brilliant. The goal kicking, I was so fascinated by it, and I'm hooked. And it's took a long time to come around, but can't wait for this weekend.
You've tried it as well, haven't you?
I have tried it, yeah. It's as hard as it looks on the TV. They are brutal, but some of the skill them guys, on offer there, and brings back some really fond memories of last year's World Cup. And I think the whole country fell in love with wheelchair rugby league. So the more we can get it, on air, the better, and get down playing.
The only thing it's missing is someone getting sent off in 10 seconds.
I should say.
Right, let's talk about the women's game. That started on Sunday as well, the Betfred Women's Super League. Live on Sky as well as part of a double header, which was brilliant. York beat Leeds 34-12 at Headingley, which was a repeat of the grand final. We've got a live game in the Betfred the Betfred Super League this weekend as well. It's York versus St Helens. York won the League Leaders' Shield. St Helens won the Challenge Cup last year. So let's hear from both captains, Sinead Peach and, first of all, Jodie Cunningham.
You know what? I'd say 80% of the talk in pre-season has been about that game. We're not thinking past that. I think if we can get a good performance out and hopefully a result against York, it'll put us in a really good place for the rest of the season. So a lot of our talk has been about that game, about how strong York are, where we went wrong last time. So obviously it's York away, and when we played York away last year, I think they bullied us a little bit. They really dominated in that game. It was a close scoreline, but we definitely felt like we didn't perform like we should have done in that game. So we need to fix up a lot of those things that went wrong in that game and make sure we come ready for a battle, because I'm 100% confident they're going to bring it to us in that first game.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts going into any game, just think about us, think about the team, it's obviously our first home game and it's going to be on the Sportsman, so that's a massive thing as well. But yeah, we just keep everything in-house really, we just think about us, think about our game, just be tough, and it'll be a great spectacle again.
So there we are, York versus St Helens in the Betfred Super League live on the Sportsman. We talk about the profile of the wheelchair game. It's great to see the women, the double header on Sunday on Sky, cracker.
Outstanding. This is the fastest growing part of our sport, the women's game, and love watching them go at it. And I've watched a bit of the NRL as well, and they're probably another level up, so it's up to the rugby league and the women's game to get up to that level. But just love watching the girls compete, and they don't half get stuck in. It's great.
Well, you mentioned the NRL. A couple of the girls are getting linked to the NRL,
Yeah.
which obviously we don't want to see them leaving. But because, let's be honest, women's game is probably further forward in Australia. That's good news that they're getting linked.
That's got to be their aspirations. That the quality is. I think there's a couple of young girls who didn't play for Leeds this week that you reference, and they'll go over there and probably lead the way, like Sam Burgess and Moz did for the lads over here, and people will follow because the quality is definitely increasing. Matty Smith's coaching at St Helens, so they're going to have a great coach there. And yeah, the game as a whole, it's brilliant to watch. I think it's actually easier on the eye than the man's game because there isn't as much wrestle and slowing down at the ruck. It's all about attack and it's free flowing.
I've just seen this week actually a girl from Brazil has gone over to Australia. They've found her a job, and so she's going to ply her trade over in Australia. But I think it's great that they're attracting talent from all around the world, and if that's the best league in the world, that you want to go and play in the best league, don't you? So I think it's great. So if the English girls go over, they go with our blessing and improve, then come back, and it'll be better for the national side, I'm sure.
Betfred Super League this weekend, York versus St Helens, live on the Sportsman. So 4 games in 48 hours, and then next weekend it's the Betfred Challenge Cup. We're bringing you Batley Bulldogs versus the Keighley Cougars on Sunday. That's Sunday the 23rd of April. Coverage starts at 2:45, a 3 o'clock kickoff. So make sure you hit subscribe and you won't miss a minute of the action.
You're watching the Sportsman Rugby League.
The home of Betfred Super League Online.
Tune in to Last Tackle every Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
Right, let's turn our attention back to the Men's Super League. Thursday night, live on Sky, Salford Reds versus the Castleford Tigers. Salford won all 3 games against Cass last season. Right, you both played for Salford?
Yeah.
Salford at home Thursday night.
Well, it's certainly a winnable game for Salford, and the way Salford have started and the way Castleford have started, you'd look at Salford to be favourites in that game. But you can't take anything for granted. But I'd say Salford will get the victory, and if they attack the way they have been doing and it sticks, it could be a big score. But I think they'll be happy with just the victory rather than being flamboyant, etc.
Fancy home win?
I do fancy him. I listened to Paul Rowley. I think he's worried about Widdop, Jacob Miller and Paul McShane. They've got some terrific players, but they just don't seem to have been firing just yet. And I think the win at the weekend for Castleford will give him a bit of confidence. And Andy Lass wants that job as well, so he'll know it's a real important job in terms of his future. So the players will get behind him. But I just think Salford look a well-oiled machine under Paul Rowley and their attack. I think they'll just have too many points for Cass.
Then on Friday night, we have an absolute belter on the cards.
You could feel that Wigan was always a special game on a special day, which was New Year's Day. Brutal.
Oh, that was a swinging arm. That's what's got him.
Nasty.
Already some confrontation between this rivalry.
It was a tough environment.
And there's trouble as Boyd's involved. And it could well finish up in a brawl.
It was like bragging rights whenever we played Wigan, and they were the best games.
Here's the bad blood. It was always going to be on.
Tempers are boiling.
Shot.
Outstanding try. Manfredi. Anthony Gelling has picked their pockets. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Toughness, grit, desire.
Bang, bang, 2.
First versus second, live on Sky. But why not get yourselves down there as well? There's a few tickets left if you want to watch first versus second in the Betfred Super League. Right then, Moz, we've said 8 out of 8. They've just gone away to Catalan, passed that test. Then they've got Wigan at home, St Helens away.
Yeah.
Big couple of weeks, this Warrington side.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the toughest test of the full season for Warrington. To play Wigan when they're full of confidence, Even it is at home though, so I think they will have an advantage there. But it's going to be another full house there. But it's always, doesn't matter if they're first or second, doesn't matter where they are in the league. These two, when they play, there's always fireworks, and but it just adds a bit more spice. It's going to be very tough for Warrington, but I do think the way they're going, they're going to get the victory on Friday as well.
Yeah, I think if they can come out with 10 on 10, I think then everyone will start to say it could be their year. People are saying it quiet at the minute, but I think it's probably the first time.
He said it 2 months ago.
yeah, but he said it every year for the last 15. I think if, it's probably the first time that the club as a whole at Warrington go to Wigan expecting to win, go to Wigan confident, they're the favourites, they're top of the league, they're unbeaten. It's not been like that for a lot of time, so what a game it's going to be. You can't bet against Matty Peach's side, though at home I just think they'll be so tough to beat. With Bevan French, yeah, what a game it's going to be.
Go on then, say it.
Warrington's year.
Live on Sky, it's Warrington versus Wigan on Friday night. Absolute cracker, first versus second as well. Let's talk about the other games on Friday night. Huddersfield versus Catalans. Huddersfield need a win, don't they?
They need a win, and they need to look at the scoreboard too at the end of the game, because there was a mix-up last week where I think they thought they were winning, and Jake Connor was winding the clock down. He drilled the ball in touch, and then I think his players got into him, and they realised that they were a point behind, and then the panic set in. So that game management needs to be better, and we mentioned before that they're losing games but losing them close, so they need to find a way of sparking some attack. They've got so many good players, they just need to start closing out the games and finish the game stronger.
It's a good time for them to get Catalans as well, after the loss at home.
Sam Tompkins back, it's a boost.
All right,
they've had a lot of injuries, Catalans, this season.
They have, but I think it was a very physical game against Warrington, so it would have took a bit out of the Catalans side. So, as I say, it's a good time for Huddersfield to get Catalans, but they've been going about their business very well. Catalans, they've been winning away from home with a weakened side, so it's going to be a tough one. But I think Huddersfield are due a win, and I think they'll get the win on Friday.
The way Catalans have done it without a spine at all, Mickey Mack, Sam Tompkins, Mitchell Pearce, and the way they're playing, I think it'd be great for them at the back end of the year when these players start coming in. I know Sam Tompkins is playing, I just hope he's near close to fitness, because last week he played and he looked like he were on one leg.
Hull KR versus St Helens. Saints have won the last 13 against Hull KR. 2015 was last time Hull KR beat Saints. Is this their opportunity?
I think it is. I think it'll be the biggest opportunity they've had in probably all them 13 games where Hull KR are playing terrific brand of football under Willie Peters. I think he's given that confidence, and they're playing a little bit different. Jordan Abdul's on the ball, he's a proper scrum half, and Mikey Lewis is almost playing like a fullback, but it suits his game. He's a runner, and they just look very, very threatening when they have the ball, so I think they'll go there. Saints have lost a little bit of that invincibility that everyone thought that they had when they were crowned the world champions. Was expecting a big kick on, but it's not eventuated.
No.
Hull KR Saints.
I think Saints. I just think the quality of Saints, and I think they've got a bit of muscle memory there. Hull KR are playing fantastically well, but I just think Saints will have a bit too much for Hull KR. But it's going to be a really compelling, close game.
And finally on Friday night, Leeds versus Hull. Hull won this in February 22-18.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Hull, and knowing Tony Smith as I do, he'll want a performance in this game. He'll just say, forget about the result. I just want you to get a performance in you and the club are proud of, and the scoreline takes care of itself. But the fact that he coached there at Leeds is adds a little bit more of spice there. But I expect Hull to go there with a lot more of an improved. It was embarrassing, wasn't it, last week? So a lot more of an improved performance. But Leeds, very tough to beat there, and they'll be very confident from last week. So I think Leeds will win, but I think it'll be a lot closer. It needs to be a lot closer for Hull FC's sake.
And finally on Sunday, Wakefield versus Leigh. Wakefield still searching for their first win of the season.
And I think they will catch someone at some stage. I'm not sure it'll be against Leigh. I think Leigh will go...
Leigh are not bad.
No, Leigh are good. Leigh are good, and they'll go up there with their fists up and expect to fight. And, everyone... you know, they know the record of the team that gets promoted, they go straight back down. Well, this is a massive chance to say we're not going anywhere near that. I don't think they are anywhere near it, but there is pressure on them. And Wakefield, if they can get their attack right, they're quite good in defence. They don't concede a lot of points, so if they can click in attack, they can beat anyone at home.
I expect Lee to go there with the win. I just think they've got too much firepower. But I agree with Brownie. You know, they've not been playing particularly bad, especially in defence. But it is their attack that needs looking at. But I think they'll have worked on it. But I expect Lee to go there and get a bit of breathing space.
Gents, I've enjoyed your company, but give a plug what you're doing on Sunday.
Yeah, we're both getting the boots out, Mark, dusting them down, and we're going to have a run out on
I'm going to stand behind Moz and abuse the opposition.
Yeah, so...
try and stay on the pitch, Moz.
Oh, I'll try. It's for charity, so I'll try and stay. But, so it's Life for a Kid is the charity, so it's Benny Westwood's All-Stars against an All-Star select teams at Victoria Park there in Warrington. So a lot of ex-players, but particularly ex-Warrington players. We're hoping to get a good crowd and raise a bit of money and... have a run round and try not to get injured. That's the plan.
Well, gents, enjoy it. Go down and watch them on Sunday and raise some money for charity. Don't forget the live games, 3 wheelchair games on Saturday, and then that game in the Betfred Women's Super League, York versus St Helens. See you next week.